Hello everyone, welcome to From the Star Wars Home Video Library. I'm your host Nathan P. Butler. This time and next time, we're taking a look at a couple of items here, one of which is brand new to my collection, the other of which has been around in my collection for a while, and I thought I'd shown it at some point on the series here, but in looking back at it, I kind of went through, I was doing that spreadsheet thing that I was working on. For those who don't know, my book, A Saga on Home Video 2nd Edition, doesn't have a checklist in the back because it's already enormous across its 3 volumes. The first edition, it was very small compared to the second, did have a little checklist kind of thing in the back. But in order to sort of give folks a way to track their own collection without having to have a massive giant chunk of that could be a whole other book almost unto itself in the back of those volumes, I said I would put together an Excel spreadsheet that I would then share so others could track collections. Basically, all the stuff in my collection, remove a couple of columns and share it for others to use also. And one of the columns is to go through stuff in my collection and say, okay, where is it in A Saga on Home Video, if it's in there at all, in the first edition or the second edition, and where is it in From the Star Wars Home Video Library if somebody wants to look up more information about it by watching a video. And I got to this when I was like, oh, it must be in there. And I was looking, and I was looking, I was searching, and I couldn't find an episode in which it was covered. So what we're going to actually look at in this episode is something that's been around a while for me that I don't think I've shown. Forgive me if this is redundant, but I don't think this shows up anywhere else in this series, which boggles my mind because it's been in my collection for many, many years. But this episode and next episode both focusing on DVD screeners of different types. If you're unfamiliar with the concept of a screener, it is basically the type of thing that is produced by the company behind a movie, a TV show, whatever, that is then provided to allow those who have a vested interest in seeing it to see it, typically before there's any kind of public release on home media. So, say before the VHS release of a film, back in the day, you might see a VHS screener sent out to a company for review. Typically, these are for a variety of purposes. We've seen some of these, like the Ewoks, the Haunted Village screener that I had, or the 2 VHS screeners for the Ewok telemovies, that basically are for a business to say, hey, you're a video store, check out this product, wouldn't you like to carry this in your store for people to buy? That sort of thing. Sometimes they're sent out for review. For example, the very first screener I ever had of Star Wars The Legacy Revealed was actually sent to me as someone who was running a fan site at the time to go through and do a review of the special for my site back then. And then you also have ones that are sent down. In fact, this is the most common and well-known kind for award consideration. That's why a lot of times when you're looking for screeners, the terms FYC or for your consideration come up, because they're basically handed off to those who vote on whether something is nominated in a particular category or whether someone wins a particular category for award shows like the Emmys or the Oscars and things like that. So there's a variety of purposes that sort of shape what form these screeners take when they are sent out and that sort of thing. These days, a lot of screeners tend to be digital only to the people who do that voting, but the physical screeners from this era that's kind of ending here of physical screeners, you see on eBay pretty much constantly. In theory, these are things that aren't really meant to be sold. There's been some court cases about whether or not they legally can be sold, whose property is it, blah, blah, blah. But basically, when it boils down to it, it seems like the companies just don't really care. There's tons of screeners out there floating around on eBay. There's no policing of it. And usually, by the time someone picks up a screener after the fact on a secondary market like on eBay, it's long past the actual home video release that is superior to the screener itself. So the screener is more of a curiosity and a collector's item, much more so than something that would be your primary way to watch a film. For example, a lot of modern films, screeners are still on DVD, if they're released physically at all, whereas, we're in the 4K era now, and before that was Blu-ray, and yet here's these screeners on DVD. They're certainly substandard, but let you watch the film for review purposes and so forth. So that all being said, kind of a primer again on what these are. We're going to see another one of these next episode and not have to explain it, hence explaining in a little more detail here. Let's take a look at that one that's been floating around in my collection for a while that I didn't realize I hadn't shown. Here we are like 5 or so minutes into this episode. People are going to bitch, he's not showing the product yet. Yeah, because it's an educational series. It is not a review series of products. If you want a review series of products or unboxings, look elsewhere. I try to give you actual context. You may recall that in 2005, This was your first opportunity to get Revenge of the Sith on home media. And in the United States, it was DVD only. Other regions did have VHS releases like Japan, like the UK, and so on, but not in the United States. You had a widescreen version and a full screen version of this, a 2-disc set of Revenge of the Sith on DVD. However, there were awards being done around the time after the film was released, and there needed to be a screener to pass along to those who might vote for the awards prior to this being readily available. For that, they put out, that is 20th Century Fox, put out a screener of Episode 3 on DVD. That is this from 2005. Very plain looking. Star Wars Episode 3, Revenge of the Sith, nothing else. Star Wars Revenge of the Sith with the 20th Century Fox logo down here. It is not 20th Century Fox Home Entertainment, just 20th Century Fox, because it's not a home video release per se. Then Lucasfilm. I'm going to do a side-by-side comparison here. The color scheme, of course, is different, and the design is similar, but not quite the same in terms of, font size and stuff like that there. And then the back is telling you what awards it is being considered for, or that they're wanting it to be considered for your consideration. All these different categories that I'll look at here in just a second for you, and then the little copyright down at the bottom. The categories here would be Best Picture for the producer Rick McCallum, Best Art Direction for production designer Gavin Bouquet and set director Richard Roberts, Best Director George Lucas, Best Original Score John Williams, Best Actor Hayden Christensen, Best Supporting Actor Ian McDiarmid, Ewan McGregor, and Samuel L. Jackson, Best Supporting Actress Natalie Portman, Best Sound Editing Tom Myers, Christopher Scarbocio, if I'm saying that correctly, Andy Nelson, and Paul Salty Brinkett. Brinkett, I think I'm saying right because of the hockey guy, Brinkett. Best Sound, who got traded, which sucks. Anyway, Best Sound Editing, Ben Burt and Matthew Wood. Best Costume Design, Tricia Bigger. Best Original Screenplay, George Lucas. Best Cinematography, David Tattersall, BSC. Best Film Editing, Roger Barton, Ben Burt. Best Visual Effects, John Knoll, Richard Guyette, Rob Coleman, Brian Gurnand. And then Best Makeup, Dave L.C., Lou L.C., and Nikki Gooley. And then inside, you find just the disc, nothing else. Very plain looking disc here. Star Wars Episode 3, Revenge of the Sith. Again, not the sort of traditional look here that we see, where on the DVD releases you have the logo with the big-ass Roman numeral behind it and then the title underneath, and that carries over to the discs themselves. Instead, more like what you would see on the trailers and whatnot, and the advertising, where you have Star Wars in Episode 3 with the bars, title underneath it, that look that began with Phantom Menace in theaters. For your consideration, Lucasfilm, 20th Century Fox, and copyright underneath. And basically all this is you drop it into your player, it gives you some quick screens that are like, this is what a screener is, this is what a screener is not, this is what you're supposed to do with the screener, blah, blah, blah. A couple of screens of that. And then your normal FBI warning, Interpol International copyright warning thing, and then directly into the film itself. No bonus features, no nothing. The only other screen you ever see when looking at this is actually right upon loading, I guess, which is the audio selection. This has 5.1 surround and 2.0 stereo as audio options. No subtitles or anything like that. It's literally just bare bones. Hey, we'd like you to consider this for some awards, so here, watch it in your own good time, and please, 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 please approve these nominations and perhaps vote for it to actually be the winner of these awards, please, please, please. Now, this one would be from the Oscars, presumably, because what we're looking at here is an NTSC version of this. I don't know if it is region locked at all, but I did pop it into my player. Played fine, no issues. I have one player that I can use that'll let me know if PAL is an issue or not, and another one that might let me know if region is an issue or not, as I have discovered, kind of looking for ways to point that stuff out, even though I do have a region-free player in case I do need to check something else. There is a BAFTA version of this, which would be a British version of this. My understanding is it looks essentially the same, which is why I've never picked it up. I always thought, oh, it's the same thing, but then it hit me, BAFTA must mean it's PAL. So even if it looks the same, one's NTSC, one's PAL, maybe I should pick one of those up someday. But just was something that just got out of my head for a long time here. But this is that US version of it. Like I said, typically They go out into the wild, they're used, they get put on the secondary market on places like eBay and wind up being snatched up by collectors, but they are a substandard way of watching something once the home media release comes out. Bonus features, interactive menu, well, not interactive menus, but cool looking menus and stuff. Nice, different options for subtitles and so on. Super bare bones with 2 audio options, and that's it. So it's not going to be anyone's preferred way of watching the film, unless just maybe it's 2005 and this hasn't come out yet. And you are excited from having seen it in the theater and you want to watch it, you might be able to get it then. But at that point, it's typically in the hands of those who are doing the reviewing. It hasn't hit the secondary market yet anyway. So by the time it's in the hands of actual collectors as opposed to those who are, voting or reviewing and whatnot, generally it's more of a curiosity piece than something beyond that at that point. So with that, we will wrap up this episode. We'll check out another one of these next episode. Thank you for watching, and may the Force be with the home video viewers.